Color Matrix, Data World 1. Cinderella's royal bodyguard against the Heartless. I woke up and I found my message board beeping. I stumbled out of bed and pressed it, and suddenly a hologram of Sparks appeared. "Sup, boss?" I muttered as I rubbed my eyes. Sorry to wake you, Ace, but I have news on the Color Matrix archives," Sparks told me. "Yeah, what's that?" I asked. "We have managed to unscramble some of the messages left behind, and I've been tinkering with the Color Matrix with some weird add-ons, which I've worked into this data drive. Hopefully you should be able to access something called Data Worlds. Universe is made out of code instead of energy," Sparks explained. Okay, I'll check it out," I said to him. "Awesome, let me know what you find," Sparks said. "Okay," I nodded. Then Sparks' hologram disappeared. I quickly ate my breakfast. I did 30 minutes on the treadmill for a bit. Then I finally got into the Color Matrix console. Then I saw a green data drive sat there. I picked it up and slotted it into the drive slot next to the World Searcher screen. Then the bar appeared on screen. It went up from 5% to 10% to 50% to 100%. Then a whole new set of universes was available to me. But as I stared at the multiple universes available, some of them had locks on them, as if they were locked away. I only had a few to pick from. So I found a data world that piqued my interest. These universes were very strange, as they were code energy, not organic. I was surely interested. Okay, here goes nothing. I started scrolling through the universes, and I made sure I picked up one that I was definitely interested in. "Daisy, can you tell me about this one?" I asked.
"Yes, sir. Here is a data world. You are a Keyblade wielder, tasked to guard Cinderella, a respected queen who's being hunted by the Heartless."
Daisy explained. Daisy was my AI, and she was also in charge of catering for me and making sure that I understood everything that was going on, and making sure that my vitals were fine whilst I was plugged into the Color Matrix. "Okay, I want to do this one," I told Daisy.
"I shall load it in now, sir."
Daisy replied. "Thanks," I told her. Then I managed to climb out of my shirt and lay on the bed. The needles entered the back of my neck and my fingertips. Then I drifted into darkness and Daisy read my vitals. I woke and dressed in my royal guard clothes. I then walked towards the royal throne room to find the Queen and King discussing something. "Ah, Ace, you're here. Good. I'm going hunting this morning. I need you to watch the Queen whilst I'm gone," the King told me. "Of course, Your Majesty," I said with a bow. "Please, sweetheart, I do not need protection in my own castle," the Queen Cinderella blurted. "My love, the Heartless is still after you, and your beautiful heart. We don't know who summoned them, and I will not have it. Ace will follow you wherever you go. I will not stand otherwise," the King demanded. "Fine," the Queen sighed with an eye roll. "I'm sure we'll have a smashing time," I smiled. The King then bolted away and prepared for his hunting trip. I followed the Queen as she strolled through the castle and headed outside for the royal gardens. She strolled through the sweet-smelling flowers, and I made sure I was several feet behind her, giving her some distance. She strolled along. She stopped by a bush, leaned down, and smelt the roses. She sighed long and hard. The unversed were sure scary. When I became queen, it seemed like those fears diminished, but then the Heartless came and tried to take me away," Cinderella stated. "I understand, Your Highness. It's kind of why I'm here," I noted. We carried on walking, and she led me to the courtyard. There she strolled and petted one of the horses that walked on by. Then suddenly, several Heartless appeared, only a few shadows and a large body. I summoned my Keyblade, the Stroke of Midnight Keyblade, resembling the castle that housed the King and the Queen. I then dropped into my fighting stance, blocking the Heartless horde from the Queen. 2 knights came running up to me. "Get the Queen inside, now!" I barked. Then the knights escorted the Queen back into the castle. I turned my attention to the Heartless. One of the shadows jumped at me. I swung my Keyblade and sliced it down. It evaporated, and its heart flew away. I then turned to another shadow as it jumped at me. I swung my Keyblade down and knocked it into the ground. I spun my Keyblade in my hand and then ran the tip of my Keyblade down into the Heartless, destroying it. Then I jumped forward and rolled as a shadow jumped over me. I then raised my keyblade and the shadows got more hectic. I then decided to up the ante. I spun my keyblade round and it started to shift and change shape. It transformed into a set of claws. The arm guards are made of rags, and the 3 long blades were 30cm long claws that looked like sewing needles. The large body ran at me and swung its almighty fist across my arms, and the claws took the impact. I then jumped up and swung my claws up, slicing the large body's fist. Then I divided my attention to its stomach. I rolled forward and spun in the air, my claws pointing forward. With my rotation, I became somewhat of a drilling into the large body, but it slapped its humongous stomach and ran at me at the same time. We collided, but my attack was nothing to it. As the large body overpowered me and smashed into me, I was sent flying back and I crashed onto the ground. I jumped to my feet. I then jumped up into the air and jumped over the large body. I landed behind it, and before it could turn around, I struck the large body's back, its weak spot. I sliced it several times and jabbed it with a hard jab. The large body exploded into darkness, and then the darkness diminished. I then sliced the last couple of shadows into nothing. My claws transformed back into my keyblade, and the keyblade disappeared in a sparkle of light. I ran back into the castle to find Queen Cinderella. I checked the throne room, the Majesty's chambers, and the dining hall, but found no sign of the Queen. I then called out for her and had no response. I then ran into the library and found the Queen surrounded by 2 rabid dog-like Heartless. They looked like they had bone armor, the chains hanging off of their ankles, and the Heartless insignia on their forehead. The 2 Heartless dogs circled Cinderella, snarling and growling, snapping their jaws at her. I aimed my keyblade, which formed in my hand, and I aimed it at the ceiling and sent a bolt of thunder which went up into the air and then rained down multiple times upon the Heartless dogs. They both howled as they got zapped. They turned around to spot me stood there. I hereby the knights your biggest dodos, and you're about to be nothing but a wisp in the wind, I called out. Then both of the dogs ran at me. My keyblade once again transformed into its claw form. I slashed one of the Heartless mutts as it slashed its own claws at me. I then glided the claws across each other, which summoned a spark which flew at one of the dogs. It exploded like a firework, sending both the dogs back. Then they started to melt and turn into pools of shadows. Then the pools of shadows started melting together and started forming into a 2-headed dog. It had doubled in size, and I scowled at the thing. Then I slammed my claws together, and the claws shifted into my keyblade's secondary transformation. The claws shifted into a ripier. Then the raggedy-looking rags broke away, leaving a shining, gleaming glass ripier in my hand. The crossguard looked like a dressing gown that was resembling the dress that Cinderella wore when she first danced with the king all those years ago. The handle looked like a heel of a shoe. I then jumped up and thrust my rapier several times, which sent the arrow-like bolts of light flying at the double-headed dog. It struck the hound. It barked at me, and both its mouths opened and sent several orbs of darkness flying my way. I landed on the ground and swung my rapier and slashed the orbs away. Then I jumped forward and slashed and jabbed the dog several times, my rapier glowing with light as it did. It tried to snap its 2 set of jaws at me, but I managed to dodge them instantly. I ran my 2 fingers over my rapier's blade, then I jabbed the dog repeatedly over and over and over again in quick succession. I then jumped back. I pulled back and light surrounded my rapier and forged a massive huge point of light. I threw my arm out and the massive holy spike stabbed the dog. It fell back and exploded into darkness. The heart flew away. My rapier shifted back into its keyblade form and again disappeared in a sparkle of light. I ran over to the Queen Cinderella, who was sat on the floor. I held my hand out and she took it. I pulled her to her feet. "Hey, are you okay, Your Highness?" I asked. "I am fine, thank you for saving me. For like the 100th time," Cinderella sighed. It's part of the job," I smiled. Then I escorted her out of the library and into her quarters. I then walked outside and sat on the big steps that led into the castle. I then saw the king and his knights riding on their horses, several dead birds hanging from their belts. "Ace, why do you sit here, head hanging in such sorrow?" the king asked. "I just dealt with an attack, sir," I told him. "Heartless," the king blurted. I nodded in response. "Is my queen okay?" he asked. "I managed to fight them off," I said with a sorrow sigh. "Damn it, my plan didn't work. I was promised these Heartless would be stronger, the king growled. I looked at the king in complete shock. I could not understand what I just heard. My stomach turned inside of me. My mouth went dry. My head rolled with thought. Unknown to my loyal nature, I stared at the king in shock, fear, and anger as all three emotions rippled through me. Then everything went dark. I looked up and the needle extracted from my body as I sat up. The data world was kind of confusing. It felt very strange, very odd. It felt different to the other worlds I'd been in. It was very unique. Not bad, just strange feeling. I climbed out of the bed.
How are you feeling, sir?
Daisy asked me. Good, I muttered. I walked over to the plugged-in data drive, and I unplugged it, as the data worlds disappeared off the screen. I sat there and twiddled the data drive in my hand. This might get kind of interesting, I said with a sigh.
Sir, your 8 hours in that world equal to 3 hours and 7 minutes.
Daisy told me. Okay, thanks, Daisy, I told her as I looked at the data drive.